If you followed Philadelphia baseball anywhere between about 2010 and 2016, you probably knew the name Emily Youcis, but nobody called her that. To a stadium full of baseball fans, she was Pistachio Girl, the concessions vendor who sang her sales pitch as she walked the aisles at Phillies games. For a few summers, she was a small beloved member of the city. Then, in December 2016, she was fired, and the drama behind it turned that wholesome image completely inside out. A core Aramark value is treating everyone with integrity and respect always. That includes respecting our associates' right to privacy and dealing with personnel matters confidentially. We can only confirm that the individual asked about is no longer employed after publicly connecting our company to views that contradict our values. It turned out the internet's beloved singing nut vendor was a radical white nationalist, and when asked if it was true, she had this to say.
Like other white people being like, hey, why can't I be proud to be white? Everyone else can. I'm tired of this. I think they're waiting for someone to say it.
Now, on its own, this just seemed like a strange local news story. Wholesome mascot turned out to hold views several people don't agree with, gets fired. The end, and that's exactly how the whole country covered it for about 72 hours. But the ballpark was only half of her life. Years before anyone in Philadelphia knew her political views, Emily was an underground flash animator on Newgrounds with a devoted cult following of her own.
There's a place you can't escape to mentally. Rolling silly news is making for a century for the purpose of self-preservation. Here at Alfred's Playhouse, it's a fantasy world of fun where reality is distorted.
Her most famous cartoon, released nearly a decade before she was fired, was about a traumatized character who invents a dictator alter ego. She drew a story about a mind splitting into a sweet public face and a hidden authoritarian one, years before her real life did the exact same thing. It was wild. But losing the job and getting exposed didn't push Emily out of that world. It pushed her all the way into organized white nationalism. I think we should have a multitude of strategies, from normie-friendly American nationalism to hang all N-word, K-slur, and F-slur. I wouldn't call stopping food and medical aid to a bunch of AIDS-infested N-word a genocide. I'd call it letting nature run its course. Then a movement marriage, and topped off with years of extreme activism that got her banned from nearly every mainstream platform.
Why is it hateful when white people defend themselves, but it's not hateful when Jews defend themselves? And it's especially funny because the Anti-Defamation League, literally all they do is defame.
That's literally what they do. Yes, exactly.
By 2024, the internet had written her off completely, despite her antics. But Emily wasn't done with her neo-Nazis ways. In fact, the most disturbing moment of her entire career came from the last place people expected. To understand how far she fell, you have to start with how small the country thought her story was. For about 72 hours in December 2016, everyone believed they had the whole thing summed up in a single headline. By her own account, Emily had started paying close attention to politics in late 2015. She backed Donald Trump in the primaries, and by the opening months of 2016, she'd been drawn into what she called the white identity movement. They wanted to find their own culture and identity as white Americans at the expense of everyone else, of course. She told the Inquirer the pull had been building for about 10 months. Youcis told me last night that she was at the conference as an observer, but added that she's been in thrall with the so-called alt-right movement for about 10 months. Remember that number, 10 months. It would matter later in this story because it was one of several details that stopped lining up. But before anyone noticed those inconsistencies, something else had already started drawing attention, and it had nothing to do with politics. In March 2016, an animation panel at the convention MagFest was rolling along normally until Emily, who wasn't one of the scheduled panelists, came up on stage and the panelists let her stay. Then she dragged the whole thing somewhere ugly. She badgered a fellow animator to draw adult content and branded the pop star Keisha an Illuminati puppet.
Keisha's an Illuminati puppet and she has handlers.
Wow, where do you come from?
She has handlers. I know you know about the struggle. She has a dissociative identity disorder.
Then Emily took it a step further. She accused Adult Swim's Mr. Pickles of ripping off her own character and aimed a crude remark at someone that asked a question.
What if you bad drawing the
Do you hate your mom?
Maybe.
Because if you do, make a thing of
couple ideas.
I love my mom.
get her murdered
go.
and raped.
Jesus Christ.
Oh my
All right, that was.
What if like Teva
To be fair, she didn't force her way up there. She had been brought onto the stage by the panelists, but she was the one who turned a friendly animation panel into a spectacle. Here's the strange part though. Barely anyone watched that panel when it actually happened. It only detonated years later, once it got clipped and re-uploaded across TikTok and YouTube, and it landed in front of an audience that had no idea who this woman even was. However, that gap, the old footage hitting brand new eyes, turned out to be the engine of her entire second act. Structurally, though, the panel mattered for one reason. It was the first time the harmless, quirky artist cracked and something aggressive showed through, months before the politics went public. So, when the politics did surface, nobody who'd seen it was surprised. It just looked like the mask was slipping off completely. From there, the signs came faster. That July, during the Democratic National Convention in Philadelphia, she turned up working a megaphone, heckling protesters and going after Hillary Clinton, with her political views now spilling fully into public view.
Now we just saw you jump on the microphone and say that Hillary raped people. I got gasps from the crowd.
I don't know why. They already said the Bill raped people. Why not Hillary? It's all part of the same operation. Which will be makes the world go round.
So are you a Hillary supporter out here instigating?
Do you think I would be a Hillary supporter if I thought she was a rapist and a murderer and all that shit?
The moment the two lives fused on camera came during the season. In a segment for MLB.com, Emily turned up in a red cap that read, "Make the Phillies great again," a riff on Trump's slogan, and belted out her usual pitch on camera.
There we go! Let me tell you guys, we're gonna make the Phillies great again, baby. We're gonna make the Phillies great again.
We're the Marlins broadcast, but I hope you do have a good season.
We're gonna make the Phillies great again, baby.
The whole firing scandal hinged on all these actions. Emily's sweet ballpark persona and the politics were now a single image, on camera for anyone to see. And the biggest collision was still 2 months out. On November 19th, 2016, the National Policy Institute, a white nationalist think tank run by Richard Spencer and labeled a hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center, held a conference that became infamous for attendees throwing Nazi salutes at Spencer. Emily showed up, called herself an observer, and stepped outside with a photographer to confront the protesters.
So you need to take your ass back inside the building where you belong. Oh, she's a Nazi! I remember you from last night. Yeah, you motherfucker. Get the out of here.
Is that the kind of attitude?
Yeah, for white nationalists, hell yeah. Oh, I didn't see that.
I just got sprayed.
The blink of an eye, a protester spray painted her hair and a fight broke out almost immediately. Her cameraman got bloodied in the process and the police had to be called to pull it apart. Afterward, Emily painted the protesters as the violent and racist ones. I think they're the racists here, because I've been sprayed in the face, I've been told to off, they bloodied my cameraman and stole his phone. They are the violent people. And then came the accelerant. The very next day, former Ku Klux Klan leader David Duke boosted the clip and had this to say: "In the current year, if you're white and don't wake up hating yourself for it, then you're considered a Nazi." Emily retweeted him. That single share dragged her out of local weird story and into national extremist signal. Within 2 weeks, the complaints reached the one place that could actually end all of it, her employer. Prior to this, most people assumed Emily was a Phillies employee, but this is where everyone got it wrong. She was an at-will vendor for Aramark, the team's concessions contractor. So when the firing came in early December, Aramark confirmed she was gone. A core Aramark value is treating everyone with integrity and respect always. That includes respecting our associates' right to privacy and dealing with personnel matters confidentially. We can only confirm that the individual asked about is no longer employed after publicly connecting our company to views that contradict our values. The pickup was instant. Multiple news outlets and even late-night television host Stephen Colbert reported and spun a late-night bit out of the drama of a beloved nut vendor turning out to be an avowed white nationalist.
Well, fun story. This week, the Pistachio Girl was fired for being an avowed white nationalist. Then why is she selling pistachios? Cracker Jacks has cracker right in the name. Now, that's the natural fit. That's the fit. Now, obviously, this is upsetting. This is shocking. No one ever expects a beloved nut vendor.
But that coverage skipped a lot. There was no single headline that mentioned her cartoons, and that's stranger than it sounds. The single most revealing thing about Emily Youcis, a decade of animation that read, in hindsight, like a blueprint for exactly where she ended up, was completely invisible to the mainstream story. Her reaction, on the other hand, set the template for everything that followed. The usual playbook after scandal is apologize, lie low, and make a quiet comeback. Emily ran it backwards. She floated around the idea of pursuing a First Amendment lawsuit, but it went nowhere.
Explain in more detail. I mean, that wouldn't hold up in a court of law. You have to prove it.
Yeah, give me a proof. I mean, I've said plenty of things, but I've never advocated for violence, and I've never used any sort of racial slurs or anything like that. Yeah, some part of me just pictures myself taking it all the way, all the way to the court, and getting filmed and everything, and just walking in and hiling while I enter the courtroom. I mean, I have nothing left to lose now. That's the beautiful thing is.
She also doubled down on X. Exactly. What's more important, selling nuts for a couple more years or saving the white race from extinction? Pointing out that Jews control the media and started communism isn't anti-Semitism, it's a fact. All this, there was no apology from Emily anywhere on record. The crowd, on the other hand, had 3 different reactions. The mainstream treated it as a grim novelty. The wholesome mascot who turned out to be a Nazi. Phillies fans took it as betrayal. I don't know why, but this just makes my heart ache. She seemed so lovely. It's a damn shame. But inside the circles she was entering, things were being interpreted a little differently. Emily was the victim. It's good to see white nationalism is really taking off. It's the idea of saving Western civilization. It's not a bad idea. What a brave woman. I wouldn't want to be in the street with these poop-flinging F-word saying man apes. While the rest of the internet was still reeling from her betrayal, the people she was about to surround herself with saw someone worth rallying behind. Losing that job didn't push her out of the movement. It pulled her deeper in. Remember that 10-month timeline I said is going to matter later? Well, let's get to it now. Emily Youcis told news outlets that the pull had been building up before November 2016. She said she initially followed figures from the JW and alt-light scene, including Lauren Southern and Milo Yiannopoulos. From there, she moved on to Red Ice, then to communities built around a neo-Nazi podcast and its Discord servers, before ending up on openly neo-Nazi forums. Looking back, she described each step as taking her closer to what she called the movement's center.
Time for that, but
Yeah,
at the
it's ridiculous.
at the beginning it was fun though. So as time went on, I was like really stuck in the alt-light phase, and I was like,
Milo?
I was like, yep, the Milo and the I don't know, Breitbart, Christina Sommers, and
Rebel,
yeah, Rebel Media, and like Lauren Southern, and I was like, well, like e-celebs, this is I always wanted to get to the epicenter of the alt-right, and for a little bit I thought that was it, but something didn't seem right. It didn't seem like it was really the center, but for a while I was still stuck there.
And that's where her story didn't align. Emily often claimed she'd always held these beliefs and that 2016 simply gave her permission to express them. But she also described moving through one community after another until she reached what she called the movement's center. Those 2 explanations can't both be true. Her own account contradicted itself. In her interview with Red Ice, she walked through her radicalization step by step, describing it as a personal awakening rather than something to regret. From 2016 to 2020, she became a fixture on that circuit. On the Gavin McInnes show, she pushed white racial preservation, and on another appearance, she agreed that Jewish people had got the ball rolling on political correctness. The podcasts she went on to co-host openly praised the Third Reich and pushed anti-Semitic conspiracy theories.
By the end of 2016, I was saying the 14 words, and I believed that Hitler was not so bad.
There were a few side stories along the way of Emily's self-realization. Emily said she spent some time living in South Korea to escape harassment, although that claim has never been verified. She also clashed with others in the far-right scene, an early sign of the infighting that would become common within the movement. But those conflicts were minor compared with the relationship that came next. Around 2017 to 2018, Emily became associated with Patrick Little, a Marine veteran and IT guy turned openly neo-Nazi activist who mounted a 2018 run for California's Republican Senate nomination on an openly anti-Semitic platform. And he wasn't a nobody. He briefly polled around 18% in one survey, polled roughly 90,000 votes, and got thrown out of the state Republican convention.
They just had me expelled from the building.
August 2018, the watchdog Right Wing Watch reported that Emily was with Little in Washington during his anti-Semitic Name the Jew tour. Then her personal life and the movement fully merged. Emily Youcis married Warren Balaw, a white nationalist who helped found the National Justice Party in August 2020. According to Searchlight, his father was a longtime white power activist, and Warren was among those who attended the deadly Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville in 2017. But the movement she married into wasn't exactly the empire it claimed to be. The National Justice Party presented itself as a serious white civil rights organization. But according to Searchlight, it had largely fallen apart by late 2023 because of financial problems and constant infighting. Even Warren Balaw's finances became a target of ridicule from people on the same side of the political spectrum. So much for the image of a disciplined master race. For a few years, the couple's most consistent output was a modern politics show launched around 2021 on fringe platforms like Odyssey.
Is it hateful when white people defend themselves, but it's not hateful when Jews defend themselves? And it's especially funny because the Anti-Defamation League, literally all they do is defame.
That's
their
literally what they do. Yes, exactly. So
was flatly propagandistic, glorifying history's worst regimes, pushing anti-Semitic and election fraud conspiracy theories. Throughout all this, however, she never stopped creating, even as her audience grew smaller. Another defining incident for her this period was deplatforming. Literally, no one likes Emily Youcis, hence why she's banned from almost every conceivable social media platform. Case in point, the 2016 MagFest animation panel that she nearly single-handedly ruined. One mainstream platform after another removed her accounts for violating their rules. Each ban reduced her reach and pushed her further onto fringe platforms such as Telegram, BitChute, and Odyssey, sites known for attracting creators removed from mainstream social media because of their lighter moderation. But everything you just learned, the podcast, the movement marriage, was simply just a payoff. The trail leading there began years earlier, with a cartoon almost nobody remembers anymore. In 2006, 16-year-old Emily Youcis uploaded a short cartoon to Newgrounds. In it, a dog dodges being neutered, and then seconds later throws itself through a window to its death. It had barely any views, but that clip about a character who picks his own ending over the thing coming for him is the seed of everything. And to understand why, you have to meet the person who drew it years before Philadelphia handed her a nickname. In a Newgrounds comment from 2013 that got screenshotted and passed around for years, Emily revealed that she'd been abused as a child. Oh, one more, just one more. Give me another, please, sir. Fill up my comment boxes with your love. Yes, it is true, I did not have a healthy, normal childhood. I was SA, among other things. Now, my family is somewhat in shambles, but I suppose you would deem that all my fault, and that I probably deserve it even because I made a dog having a drink and a W word in my cartoons. Go on, say it. Say I deserve to be SA at night while my mom was in the hospital. Say it, you bad, bad little boy. Now, you do realize that just because you went to Disney World does not mean you had a good childhood. Am I right? In fact, plenty of children a year get sodomized by those rat characters, just like it will happen to you and your most likely wretched cuntlap of an obese wife. And yet I can still feel joy and love and pleasure and the highest of highs. Animating is probably the closest I've come to heaven in my life, and that's what I get out of it. The most you probably get out of your wife every night is a few whalish moments before her dried poop repels your chafed, limp DK once again, and you go to sleep unsatisfied and angry for having to lie beside that lard-filed ass, unsatisfied and angry just like your reviews. Yes, I do find a great kick out of the people finding me offensive. It does give me the chuckles. Just like I've gotten a kick out of your wonderful walls of text. Dear sir, oh please, please just give me one more, just one more wall. Please come on, tell me again how shitty I am. Yes, I love it. At large, Emily made sure to make it the lens for her entire catalog. She wanted every dark cartoon she drew read as a wound. And it stuck, but her fans didn't call it yet. Over the next decade, across dozens of animations, that dog from 2006, a character named Alfred, grew from a crude MS Paint gag into the center of a strange, elaborate mythology. The hinge was a 2007 short called Rise of Alfred. Newly made manager of a knockoff fast food joint, Alfred gets buried under flashbacks of a neglected childhood and decides the answer is to rule as a dictator. Safe to say, the cartoon set the psychology for everything after it. It showed a craving for love so raw that the smallest scrap of power curdled into tyranny. All of it running through an authoritarian second self she named Dictator Pickles. If that character name rings a bell, it should. It's the same Dictator Pickles she'd melt down about years later on that MagFest stage, accusing a cartoon of stealing him. But the cartoon that made her a cult name came at the end of that same year. The 3-part Alfred's Playhouse is still her most watched, most picked apart work. Set off by a memory of his abuse, Alfred spirals into a warped parody of Pee-wee's Playhouse. And by the end, Dictator Pickles takes him hostage, forces the buried memories back up, and takes control of his body, leaving the real Alfred to drift off into a permanent, chosen delusion. He picks a comforting fantasy over a reality he can't carry.
There's a place you can't escape to mentally. Rolly silliness is making for a century for the purpose of self-preservation. Here at Alfred's Playhouse. It's a fantasy world of fun where reality's distorted. Where a man-child goes to forget he was unsuccessfully aborted. It's kind of like their perception is changed like magic, so you can flee when the real.
The whole thing was filled with references to 20th century dictators. At first, it seemed like childish shock humor to some people and deeper symbolism to others, but it became much stranger once people saw where Emily eventually ended up. Let's analyze it for a second. The story was about someone so hurt that they created a harsh, authoritarian version of themselves to take over, while their kinder self faded into the background. Emily wrote that in 2007. Now, how people, fans, and critics included, Read The Playhouse has always been split two ways. Some admired it as unsettling outsider art. For the people that think this is disturbing or weird, this is a perfect example of art that comforts the disturbed and disturbs the comforted. Many sat somewhere in the middle, praising the animation while finding the subject matter disturbing. Honestly, I respect this type of abstract art and how Emily is expressing her thoughts and emotions through animation. But it's so sad that she's such an awful person nowadays. The work only got darker from there. Between 2013 and 2016, she pieced together her most ambitious project, the Alfred movie. Instead of telling one straightforward story, she built it from scattered, non-linear scenes released over several years before compiling them into a single film. In one, Alfred road trips with a black, red-eyed dog named Labby, who abandons him in what she called the land of the exiled dead, where a drunken talking melon feeds him self-destructive advice.
Surprise will be there. Don't peek. Cover your eyes. Don't peek, Alfred.
Okay, Labby.
See you in hell, bitch.
Yay, Labby, a surprise. Can I open my eyes now, Labby? Can I? Can I peek?
Another part of the film contained some of the most graphic material she ever made. Here, Alfred was nearly talked into suicide by hallucination of Labby before falling into a necrophilic fever dream and waking up in a graveyard, where Dictator Pickles had taken over again. It closes with the ascent of Alfred in 2016, her final Alfred animation, where he uploads himself into the internet and destroys both the Playhouse and himself. The reading she loosely endorsed is that Labby personifies Alfred's sexual trauma, and that the whole movie might be one extended dissociative break. The content escalated into graphic sexual and necrophilic imagery that people felt went out of control. I'm just surprised that she's still alive. I, in full honesty, genuinely thought she had killed herself because the shit she animates and thinks about is so disturbing that I'm shocked she hasn't yet. The animation is insanely good, although the content/script is like, mercy, what the hell is this? Even sympathetic viewers admitted the film was a mess with no way in unless you've memorized a decade of prior lore. It's really hard to understand. It's not just a psychedelic film. Even so, one thing was impossible to deny. Over the next decade, her animation improved dramatically. The movement became smoother, the lighting and shading more advanced, and even critics acknowledged how much her technical skill had grown. At the same time, the subject matter became darker, and political ideas began appearing more openly in her work. Emily wasn't ignored because she lacked talent. She had real ability and was given opportunities, and those opportunities didn't come out of nowhere. As her work improved, she became connected to other animators working in the same corner of the internet. One of the most influential was Jimmy Screamer Claus, real name James Creamer, the creator of the 2012 adult horror film Where the Dead Go to Die. Emily voiced an Alfred cameo in the film, and the two dated around 2012 to 2013. His red-eyed dog, Labby, later crossed over into the Alfred movie, where Emily reimagined the character as part of Alfred's trauma. According to her, the relationship ended over the phone. She eventually turned that breakup into part of Alfred's story. A man I thought loved me for over a year just dumped me over the phone. He animates 3D cartoons and has a fucked up dog character named Labby, as you see here. So this is very much based on a true story. That feeling when the only other person on the internet who has as much as a fucked up perverse dog character as you dumps you over the phone. Emily's work wasn't just limited to animation. Around 2010, she formed the punk band Emily Pukis and the Vagrants with fellow art students in Philadelphia. The group started as a Gigi Allen cover band before writing original songs, many of which she later used in her animations as music videos. She also made green screen comedy videos under the name Emily Show and appeared regularly on the now defunct Scrapple TV, including a segment called Smut Cave.
We're all struggling. We're all weak little bastards. I want to go into the world, collect information from homeless people and the various shit spots. I'd wheel them together in a gang so I would not be one little white girl, but I have a big pack.
Her biggest opportunity, however, came through Newgrounds. Emily said she showed her work to Trauma co-founder Lloyd Kaufman at a meetup, and he became interested in collaborating with her. According to Emily, he later gave her some trauma-related work around 2015. So two very different lives were unfolding at the same time. By day, she entertained families at a baseball stadium. In her own time, she made disturbing animations about death, trauma, and authoritarianism. For almost a decade, those worlds never collided. That instinct to take private pain and turn it into a cartoon was the disturbed voice underneath everything she made. And by the mid-2020s, the internet assumed that voice had gone quiet for good. Then somewhere, somehow, a machine switched on, paving the way for an unexpected comeback. On October 7th, 2025, from an account called Alfred77, Emily posted the first episode of a series called The Will Stancil Show. It was an AI animated satire she built largely with OpenAI's Sora, feeding hand-drawn stills into the model and cutting it together in post. And it aimed at a real person, Will Stancil, a progressive writer and lawyer based in Minneapolis, known online for waging city planning fights at high volume and posting almost constantly.
Ah, nothing like getting some brewskis with a good friend after a long day fighting fascists on X.com.
It do be like that, Mr. Stancil.
The show cast Stancil as a bumbling do-gooder paired with a stereotyped black sidekick whose deadpan catchphrase turned into a meme that people kept firing back at the real Stancil for weeks. It do be like that, Mr. Stancil. I have no mouth and I must scream. Will Stancil in the belly of Grok. For someone who was reportedly cancelled, you couldn't deny the numbers were huge from the show. Within months, episode 1 pulled around 1.9 million views. And the target fed the fire himself when he quote tweeted it more than once. The prominent neo-Nazi who is sexually obsessed with me has created a cartoon miniseries about me, and now the entire worldwide neo-Nazi movement and seemingly the whole of Twitter is obsessed with tweeting the catchphrase at me, so much so it Google autocompletes. Every tweet of mine instantly garners hundreds or even thousands of replies with this catchphrase. Again, this woman is an explicit white supremacist who believes Jews and black people should be exterminated. This is who runs Twitter now, with Elon Musk's express approval. The more the real Stancil pushed back, even to object, even to mock it, the harder the algorithm pushed the cartoon attacking him. His own reach became fuel for the fire targeting him. For Emily, on the other hand, after a decade of making work that stayed locked inside niche communities, she'd finally made something that got out. Pop open the champagne for this one. Congrats, way ahead of you. The series continued. One episode, A Grokwork Orange, referenced A Clockwork Orange, while another, released around February. The AI Who Loved Me was inspired by a viral incident involving Grok. At that point, it was clear this wasn't a one-off project. The reception, it was nothing to write home about. On one side, a cluster of tech and comedy voices focused on how the show was made. They argued it proved that one person, using AI tools, could successfully produce a serialized animated series. A bold new frontier in media. The Will Stancil Show paves the way for a new kind of synthetic origin art, rather than the cheap, obnoxious, al-generated slop flooding YouTube. This is transformative art that brilliantly merges the creator's artistic vision, al technology, and the absurdity of real life. On the other hand, people argued that the use of AI had taken away from human artists and creators who put in the work. If we start allowing Al to create mainstream media, thousands of jobs will become obsolete below the executive level. From storyboard artists to writers, every single person who works to create media will be out of a job. It is that simple to understand. Al has no place in film. It's harmful to the industry and to the environment. It's straight slop. It takes no skill or talent to create works that are essentially stitched together pieces of stolen work. It's shameful, and any respectable filmmaker would denounce its use. But there was one thing almost everyone agreed on. This wasn't the kind of AI content you make by typing a prompt and waiting. Even many of her critics accepted that the work involved far more than one-click generation. It just kind of clicked for me that you're probably drawing a lot of art for the show and feeding it into the Al to animate, so it has a point of reference. You're the breaker of Korean animator slave chains. She admitted that she drew the images herself, fed them into Sora, and then edited the results by hand. Yes, everything is animated using my own original character drawings. And here's the part that should unsettle you most. Emily Youcis' comeback videos read the same authorial voice from 2006. The fixations, provocations, and the instinct to turn a grievance into a cartoon was back and laundered through a machine that reached millions yet again. The comeback didn't happen because she changed. It happened because the platform's rules changed. When moderation loosened after Twitter's ownership shift, the door she'd been locked out of for years swung right back open, allowing Emily to thrive again.